Have you ever had a near-death experience? Something else happened to me. I've never taken acid, but I did a cleanse from the Blessed Herbs program, and they shorted me on friendly flora. It's absolutely vital to reestablish the friendly flora. I knew I was in big trouble, but with a head injury, I was dealing with stuff like PTSD, anxiety, and it was Christmas time, and I planned a wonderful vacation with my kids. That's all I could think about, is them. I totally forgot to call the company and ask them to send more friendly flora, which is probiotics. When you totally clean out the colon, you wipe out your friendly microbes and they have to be replaced. And after about a month or so, all of a sudden, a Candida breakout. My first one really ever in my entire life. But before I knew it, the Candida was pumping acid through my veins. Candida produces a chemical that's an acid that basically will try to create an environment that they will thrive in, which is inflammation and sugar fermentation. The sugar with the oxygen, you get ATP in the mitochondria from that. That turns on the life process. Without oxygen, sugar ferments, and it's the food for cancer, Candida, and all the bad guys. And we all have Candida. It's part of the food the good guys keep just enough around so they don't go hungry. They've got control in the healthy environment. They limit the growth on it. Everything's in check. But when a disease environment happens, the cells shut off. It takes oxygen for them to turn that life process on, for white blood cells to shoot the superoxide out to kill the bad guys. Now, do you get it? Why Otto Warburg, Nobel Prize winner, his 1966 Lindau lecture was The Cause of Cancer. Cancer is anaerobic, and he'd withdrawn oxygen from perfectly healthy cells, and they turn cancerous 100% of the time, no matter what their prior genetics was. They learn how to live on the fermentation. Every single time, if the glucose is fermenting, the cancer cells live on it. The cause of cancer was discovered a long time ago. If they were to step up and say, you know what? We've got the answers. We would say, you found it. Thank you for all that you contributed for this. We appreciate it. You found it. Thank you. Who would continue to pay them to keep doing research? On what? They had to find a way for job security. But now is our time to step up and speak up. Free thinkers have typically been healthier. The healthier people are, the smarter people are. That's been the case throughout history, and it only leads one way. There's only one outcome of this. What is darkness? The absence of light. What is light? Well, it's not the absence of darkness. It's intelligence. It's all the things that have been said about it, right? So it's interesting. You take a box, no light, nothing in it, completely dark. If you light it up with 1,000 lights and nothing can cast a shadow, can any darkness enter? No, it flees before the light. Fear is false evidence appearing real. It's not based on anything true whatsoever. And this is another one I thank Cindy Sellers from Angel Farms in Hawaii for sharing. Fantasized emotions appearing real. That's a cool one. It's nice to have some variety, and you know, fear is not based on anything real. It's not based in truth. That's why the light always wins. There's only one way this can turn out. Once you understand that, there's nothing to worry about. right after I showed up in South Africa 28 years ago. I think I was one of the first white people to live in a black township because I was there right when apartheid was lifted, and I witnessed a lot of history. I was there when all the big demonstrations took place before Mandela got into power. The laws of nature and laws of God are in harmony. It's poetic justice how God shows up to help set things straight when things go too far out of balance. Nature seeks balance. You'd think the abusers, mob, gangs, would learn this lesson by now. I'm sure he already had a plan as the leader of the largest tribe. What would you do about it if you were him? If I were him, I'd sure make a plan as the tribal chief of the largest group of people there. I'd just do it without all the violence. I saw a lot of good people get hurt, but that's been more their culture. They had been suppressed for far too long, and nature seeks balance. One thing I noticed during all the turmoil in South Africa is how they used the police forces to increase the military forces. And the souped-up police military vehicles that were brought in had trilateral commission symbols on them. I showed up in Maui, Hawaii, November 5th, 2014, the day after the glyphosate moratorium was just passed in Maui. Glyphosate is the active ingredient in Roundup. It's interesting. Maui shows us there really is something people can do when they decide to step up. Mandela shared a plan for his people to step up. Hawaii and Maui, they stepped up. They distributed a DVD called Genetic Roulette with Jeffrey Smith. I interviewed him on my YouTube channel right after he came out with that documentary. I like to interview people who are making a difference here and there. Well, with a small budget, they took that DVD and just passed it to everybody on the island. Monsanto had a huge budget, spent that budget, and lost. That's worth something. That gives us hope. Iceland shows us they were the only country in the world who took a bunch of top crooked bankers and threw them in prison during the 2008 financial crisis. Most people have not heard what happened there because it hasn't been in our fake news media. I was in Taipei when the movie The Big Short was released at the end of 2015. I saw it when it first came out, and it is a must-see. It covers the fraud committed by the big banks against the citizens and the following corrupt government bailout of the banks. It's been out for a few years now. If you have not seen it yet, make it a high priority and watch it. Well, we already had a bailout for the banks, even when they were the ones committing fraud. Since there's a symbiotic relationship between the banks and the people, is it about time we have a bailout for the people? Most definitely. In fact, the people deserve a double bailout. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa have had every right to form BRICS. Solutions for monetary systems and for what's been happening with what people are spraying in our neighborhoods like Hawaii, we're being shown peaceful solutions. When we step up, we can actually make the right thing happen. We can actually take action and enforce our laws of peace. It happens. And there is greater safety when we do it as a group, not alone, right? What happened to JFK? Look what happened to Nikola Tesla. What happens when you try to give the world something it's just not ready for yet. Let's unify our hearts and minds and support each other. We the people are doing it, right? We the people educate people to love, to care, in order to learn. This is absolutely interconnected, you know? And how can we change anybody? Change starts in our hearts. It's the simplest thing. That's where it all starts.